Hey guys, it's me Zoe, and today I'm going to be doing my first ever storytime video. I'm so excited about this video. I have been loving watching storytime videos on YouTube. I just think it's such a fun and cool personal tag that a lot of people are doing. And I've always wanted to try out a storytime video, but I never really knew of something good enough to share with everyone. So currently what I do right now in order to make money and pay the bills and all that jazz, I work in the food industry as a server and bartender, and I absolutely love it. I feel like I've just grown up a lot and just learned a lifetime of knowledge in the past couple of years. I feel like I've also just changed for the better since I first started. It has just been a really humbling experience. And I have met so many crazy and awesome people throughout this whole journey. So I thought that it would be really cool to share some of my stories as a server. And for this video in specific, I am going to talk about stories that I had while working at Olive Garden, and that is the restaurant I began this entire journey that I'm having right now. I started when I was 18 years old, and I applied as a host, but they hired me as a server, and I went through like a couple of weeks of training. I'm so glad I started at Olive Garden because it is such a big corporate restaurant. Getting a solid corporate training was really good for me before I stepped out into different types of restaurants. So I'm really glad I started at Olive Garden, and the reason why I'm mentioning Olive Garden in this video is because I have absolutely nothing bad to say about the restaurant or the corporation. I'm not here to bash Olive Garden at all. I loved working at Olive Garden for the year and a half that I did, and I miss it sometimes, and this is just kind of a cool way for me to relive those memories I had at Olive Garden. Even though these stories may not be the most fun experiences I had, they were still huge memories and a big part of my time at Olive Garden. I hope you enjoy my stories, and let's get into this. So I'm going to get into two stories about my serving experience at Olive Garden. So this first story I'm going to call my first serving experience. So at Olive Garden, once you're finished training and following other servers and learning all of what you need to know, they put you on the floor and they give you a 2-table section. So that means you're only going to have to worry about 2 tables and rotating those 2 tables the entire night. And once the restaurant feels you're ready and you've gone through as much of the process as possible, they move you up to a 3-table section. So this story begins on my very first night of having a 3-table section. And I will be 100% honest, I was so scared and so nervous. I don't think I've ever been that nervous going into something before. I was also really excited for this, and I was so happy to finally be at a 3-table section. I felt legit. I felt like I was finally a real server. So I was doing well the whole night with my section. I was a bit overwhelmed. At that time, 3 tables was a lot for me, but I was going through it all and doing the absolute best that I could. Well, this was probably my 6th or 8th table. It was a mom, a dad, and their son. And I greeted them, and I got their orders, and I put it all in. And a super big thing about serving, and what a lot of people don't realize, is the whole process of serving is keeping up a good rate of timing. So knowing that you need to greet your table within 30 seconds, getting their order within the first 10 minutes, and then having their meals on the table after about 15 to 20 minutes after you've taken their order. As well as being able to juggle multiple tables and do the exact same process with all of them as fluidly and professionally as possible. And that whole process and knowing exactly how your timing will go takes a while to get adjusted to and figure out for yourself, and everybody's different. Everyone has their own little spiel of how they go about greeting their tables and talking to everyone, and it just takes a minute to get into and feel comfortable with. So I was just absolutely not comfortable with it yet, and I wasn't really keeping very good track of my timing. So their food came up, and I realized that I had not brought their salad out first. And so I thought it was just completely okay to bring out the salad and the food together because I did not think it would be that big of a deal. So I brought out their salad bowl and I brought out their main entrees together. I put everything out on the table and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I meant to bring out your salad first. I hope this is okay. I do apologize, but I hope you enjoy your meal." The mom just glared at me the entire time I was saying that. And then once I was done, she said, "I don't understand how you expect me to eat my food when my salad is here with my main entree. I don't know how I'm going to be able to eat my salad." I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Would you like me to take your food back?" And she said, "No, we're just gonna eat it now, but just to let you know, I'm very upset." And that was my first ever complaint ever. And it hit me hard. I took it so personally. I remember going to a utility closet, closing the door and crying for like 2 minutes and then coming out. And a server actually saw me crying. And his name is Jabbar. He basically just said, "It's not that big of a deal. Sometimes this happens. You're gonna get the hang of it eventually. People get upset over little things and you just have to realize that and move on and learn from your mistakes." And that made me feel so much better. So Jabbar, if you're watching this video, thank you so much for giving me that pep talk. But once I was done crying, I had my manager go to the table and help the guests feel a lot more comfortable and a lot happier. They were still really upset with me throughout the whole night. Basically, the lady just didn't want to see me or talk to me or anything, so I did the best I could. I got them everything else that they needed. I was still really bent out of shape about it, and I was also still juggling my other 2 tables, so I was still overwhelmed and just trying to remain calm. And I put the check on their table once everything was finished and they were ready to pay, and I went and took care of the rest of my tables, and I looked back and the family was gone. And then I started freaking out again, like, oh my god. Not only did I have to have my manager come up to this table, and I made a huge ordeal about this, and these people were so upset with me. Now they've left without paying, and I got my first guest complaint, and these people didn't even pay, so now I'm gonna have to pay for all of this, and this is just the worst night ever. But then I realized that they left the check at the host stand with some cash in it, and I believe they stiffed me that night. I learned my lesson big time. I definitely messed up with that table. What I learned from that whole experience was, remember the order of your courses. Bring out appetizers first and then salads, or the first main course, and then once they're finished with all that, bust their table and bring out their main course. You don't want to give people too much at one time unless they ask for you to. And yes, so I learned all of that really fast after that night, and eventually I was able to juggle 3 tables like a blink of an eye, and everything came a lot easier once I figured out my own little routine. Even though it was a horrible day at the time, I'm so glad that it happened, and I'm so glad that I learned from that. Oh man, that's good. Something about the summertime just makes me want to drink peach tea like every day. Alright, now we're on to my second story. I'm going to call this my scariest guest experience, or the craziest day. So this story takes place on Veterans Day. This was my first Veterans Day working at Olive Garden, and what Olive Garden does on Veterans Day is they serve all veterans a free meal. Basically what they do is they have a little pre-prepared menu, and you can choose an entree from that menu. I believe there are a couple other things you can get free too, like drinks and whatnot. It's just a way that they say thank you to everyone who has served our country, and it is just a really cool and awesome day to work because you get tons and tons of veterans in that day with their family, and it's just a really sentimental day. But it is also an insanely crazy day. It gets so busy, and that is not a surprise because Olive Garden is just giving away all of this free food. So of course we're gonna have a crap ton of veterans in. So the managers prepared us all for Veterans Day. They let us know exactly what was going on, what was going to be happening that day, so that way we were all ready to be able to handle, you know, exactly how the menu would work and how to ring stuff up and blah, 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 blah. I was very prepared for crazy that day. I actually believe I was working a double shift this day, so I was working a morning shift and then I was also working an evening shift. So I was working the whole day. I was making money, girl. My section was constantly full, tons of veterans coming in. Pretty much every area of the restaurant was packed, especially the bar. Loads of people sitting up there getting some drinks. And I remember there was this one gentleman, he was kind of middle-aged, he was a veteran, and he sat at the bar the entire day. I remember him being there pretty much from when we opened. He stayed the whole first shift. I remember very distinctively seeing him during my second shift, and I remember thinking, wow, this guy has been here all day. I bet he's having a really good time at the bar. So I don't know what was going on, if the first bartender from the morning just wasn't keeping track or what, but this guy had a lot to drink. He definitely had more than 2 drinks an hour, and everyone who passed by the bar he would say hi to, and he would tell a story about his time in the military, and this guy was just feeling really good. And so the second shift rolls around and the bartenders switch, and there definitely was a lack of communication between the bartenders because the night bartender just kept giving this guy drinks even though he definitely should have been cut off. So this guy was just getting wasted, and he was getting more and more verbal and saying just a lot more crude stuff as a drunk person would. Well, this guy was saying some pretty brutal things, and it started to get worse and worse and worse. So the bartender very kindly and politely said, "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm gonna have to cut you off. I really do appreciate you coming in today, but I think this is gonna be your last drink." And this guy just lost it. Meanwhile, I have a full section. At this time, I actually had a party of women in the middle of the restaurant, and I think it was about 10 to 12 ladies. They all had a glass of wine and were enjoying themselves. And then this man just starts going crazy at the bar and all hell breaks loose. Everyone else in the restaurant just gets dead silent. And this guy just starts screaming. He was going off on the bartender, saying things like, "Well, I deserve to have as many drinks as I want." And then he started saying stuff about post-traumatic stress disorder and I have PTSD and you can't tell me what to do because I have a disorder. That's probably the last thing you want to be doing if you have PTSD is drinking a crap ton. So the bartender was just trying to get this guy to calm down, and then they got our manager involved and they called this guy a cab, and they were just trying to get this guy out of the restaurant. This guy started getting a little bit more feisty, and all my tables were distracted. I couldn't get any orders or anything, so I basically just went to the back of the restaurant while all of this was going down and just waited for everything to calm down. It was crazy. The bar and where this guy was at were on the complete opposite side of the restaurant than the kitchen. So the bar was at like the very front of the restaurant. Like you come in through the front doors, and behind the host stand was the bar. And then on the complete opposite side of the restaurant, behind all of the sections and the tables, was the kitchen. And this Olive Garden that I worked at was huge. So I was in the kitchen with a bunch of other servers, and we could hear this guy crystal clear. And my general manager had to come up and intervene, and he was attempting to escort this guy out. And then the guy stood up, got in my general manager's face, and punched him. Just straight up socked my general manager. And then that's when everybody got involved. Other gentlemen at the bar, guests from other tables, like 10 of our male servers, all these guys got involved and tackled the veteran to the ground. This guy was also screaming the N-word the entire time too. I'm not sure why he was doing that, but every other word he said was the N-word, and he was yelling it. So people were like super upset at this point. Thank God people intervened and got this guy to the ground. Even though it was so extreme, there were like 30 people on him. It was insane. Well, then my general manager of course calls the police. The police had to intervene. There was an ambulance. This was definitely the craziest day to date that I've ever had in a restaurant. Finally, the police come and escort this guy out, and I'd say after about a half an hour, everyone finally gets into the normal swing of things, and we're all trying to forget what just happened. So I finally get back to my group of ladies, and they're all still bewildered. I finally get all of their orders, and I put them in the computer, and they're being made, and everyone's finally happy again. Well, I bring out all the ladies' meals, and one lady claims that she got the wrong entree. I said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. What did we order? I'm so sorry that I got your entree wrong." And she said, "I ordered the shrimp scampi." Well, at Olive Garden, when I worked there were 2 menu items with the name shrimp scampi. There was the appetizer called the shrimp scampi fritta, and there was the entree, which was like a pasta dish called the shrimp scampi. So she said the shrimp scampi, I gave her the entree, what she had really originally wanted, the appetizer. So I apologize. I go to the back of the kitchen and I ring in the shrimp scampi fritta on the fly, so that way they can make it super fast. I bring it out to her, and everyone's doing fine, and I bring out the cheese grater. All Olive Garden servers carry around cheese graters like it's the holy grail. Like we all have one glued to our hips at all times. Because at Olive Garden, you put cheese on everything. So I offered the cheese grater to her, and I referenced her food with the cheese grater. "Ma'am, would you like me to put some cheese on your food?" And she looked at me and said, "Are you pointing at my food?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I was just offering you some cheese if you'd like." And then she said, "Call me ma'am one more time." And I said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am," without even thinking. And then she just lost her shit on me. She said, "Put some motherfucking cheese on my food and get the fuck out of my face before I tackle your ass to the ground like that guy at the bar over there and beat the shit out of you." And that's when I backed off and was just like, "All right, you have a great day." And I walked off and explained the situation to my manager and let her take care of the party for the rest of the evening. If someone threatens me, I'm not going to continue serving them. You're threatening to hurt me and essentially end my life. I have never been so disrespected in my entire life. I still can't believe she said that. It was still pretty funny, still one of the most memorable things I have from working at Olive Garden. And I will tell that story until the day I die. That whole day was just insane. And basically what I learned from that story was that even if you were having a guest or a table like that, maybe not as extreme, just don't let it affect you and ruin your evening, because as soon as you do that, it's gonna trickle into everything you do that evening. And it's just gonna put you in a rotten mood. Give everyone the exact same type of service. I would want to treat all of my tables exactly the same with the absolute best possible service that I can. So that is definitely a huge thing I learned from that experience. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and you got to see a little bit of what it's like to be a server or a bartender or just anyone in the restaurant industry. These were some of my craziest stories. You still get a lot of awesome guests coming in. It is really an honor to get to talk to and interact with so many different awesome people. So thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and found this entertaining, and maybe this will be something that I do in the future. I would really like to try out some more storytime videos. Alrighty guys, hopefully I will see you all in my next video. Bye!